So that's the title of our presentation, my presentation. That's me. So my role is Director of Innovation Technology at the Viktor Rydberg Foundation, School Foundation. So there's your first Swedish lesson. The only word you didn't know there is stiftelsen, which is foundation. We have been around for 25 years next year, and we now have 6 schools. It started off as one school with 77 students the first year. We now have 6 secondary schools, 3 are senior secondary colleges, so the last 3 years before they graduate to further studies, and 3 are junior secondary, so a 3-year period from grade 7 to 9. And we have about 3,000 students at the moment, 350 staff, of which about 280 are teachers, so that's a bit of the size of us. The foundation was started and has a goal to be a role model and leader in the Swedish education system for schools. Comes down to the goal of the foundation is to provide excellent education for as many students as possible. It is growing slowly as a foundation. There's not a huge opportunity to raise a lot of capital, so we start one school, develop that gets bedded down, and then we've sort of moved on to the next one. So on average, once every 4th year, a new school starts. They're all in the Stockholm region. And number 7 starting next August, which is exciting for us. And it's in a new building which at the moment has been completely emptied. So it's just a few walls and a lot of holes. But hopefully by August it's going to be a school full of students. Probably should also add that all our schools are one-to-one. So every student has a device, a laptop. It's a mixed environment, so there's both Mac and PCs there. Our first school went one-to-one in 2005, 2006. So we've been rolling this out and doing this for quite a while now. And one goal is to continuously improve. And that's very broad, and I think every organisation would like to do it. I'm specifically involved in the continual improvement of our digital platforms, digitalisation, also with a focus on how that's improving student learning in the classroom. So we, 2 years ago, made a decision that Canvas is going to be the key digital platform in our transition to a more blended learning model. I'll go through a little bit of the process of that soon. Oh no, not another system, was the reaction we got from a number of teachers when we first said it, and when we roll it out to students we get, oh, what, which, what, why? Another one? Anybody heard that, had that reaction before? I'll take from the giggling and laughing that that's a yes, it wouldn't be the first time. Because we get, why can't we just have one system to do everything? I take a deep breath and say, because if you had that system it would never work. Because nobody's going to do everything we wanted to do. This is the way I'd like it to work. All these systems talk to each other, everything's seamlessly integrated, everything works. As I present this to our new intake of students last week, I said, this is what we're aiming for, but sometimes it's like one of the systems speaking Chinese and the other one speaking Italian, and I don't speak either of those. So a bit of a problem there. Canvas and G Suite talk to each other in some respects, which works well. As far as, so an SIS, a student information system, which is our administrative system where we have who the students are, their parents, the set grades, it covers attendance. We have 2 different ones we use at junior secondary and senior secondary. They're both local Swedish ones. There's a number of requirements we have in Sweden reporting to the school board, National Bureau of Statistics, various different institutions, that having a Swedish SAS has a lot of benefits because it saves us time. However, they're very local. The idea of talking to an LMS that's global, external, is not anywhere on their product map or radar. Sweden's quite a small market. Most of the SISs in the Swedish market are also trying to do some or many of the functions of an LMS, and they're trying to tell you that they're doing all of them. So in their business model, integrating with Canvas is not something they see as a success factor. So then we're down to CSV exports and imports, which if you want more details, I can tell you about that over coffee if you are interested. There are some solutions we're looking at to try and make the integration between our SIS and Canvas better. And there's a new SIS on the Swedish market that's very young, but has not trying to do everything. It's trying to do the core administrative things and is already talking to Canvas about integrating. So there's some options for the future, which makes me happy. We need to tell our teachers and our students very clearly that we do use all these systems and what they do and what we do in the different ones. And to try, as the speaker before talked about, reduce the need to do double work. Not put feedback in two systems, not put grades in two systems. We're not there yet, but we're working towards it. We sat down end of 2016 and talked about our learning vision for 3 years, because any longer than that feels like it's too hard and too long. So there were 3 points. The first one was all schools use instructional design to achieve blended learning environments. Our definition of blended learning is quite broad. Some happens in the classroom. We have scheduled time, we have school buildings, students come to school. Some of it happens online. That may be in the classroom, but is often also outside of the classroom covering homework. And that all these pieces that form the learning journey of the student are as aligned as possible. So we're working towards the same goal. The second point in our vision was effective learning for every student based on needs, abilities, experience and interests. And these 4 words there at the end, needs, abilities, experience, interest, are requirements we have from the school law and national curriculum. So it's not something we've made up ourselves, but this is an expectation of Swedish schools that we provide this. And the third point is preparing our teaching force, which is going to take time, both over years and also dedicated time where we do talk to them, train them, help them understand why and what we're doing. So understand a digital strategy, develop their digital competences. We have some fast early adopters that are running far ahead and already doing things that we hadn't even thought of, and then we have some that need help. We don't have many resistors. We have some that need help and support, but we have very few that are actively saying no, which is lucky. We've been quite open with us being an IT and digital organisation for a while, so we tend to attract teachers that are at least open to that. And then, of course, we'd like to be as efficient and as effective as possible. But an efficient, effective system is not necessarily great for student learning. So when I'm sitting at an organisation level trying to make an effective, efficient system, I need to make sure I don't stop listening to teachers about what it is they need to be able to do in the classroom with their students to make sure the students learn. So I suppose, why are we doing all of this? What do we mean? How do we get to this stage where we think that implementing Canvas and moving towards blended learning is something that we need to do, and why do we need to do it now? And there's probably 4 main challenges that we see this vision and this process trying to address. The first one is the pedagogical challenge of how do students learn best? How do we integrate research coming out of learning sciences, educational psychology? How do we package all of this so that we give our students the best possible learning journey in their 3 or 6 years with us? And then if we have an idea of what that is, everybody has a limited number of resources, and how do we best allocate the resources that we have to have the most successful, effective learning outcomes for our students? Some of it is a financial challenge that we have. So Sweden's moved to a voucher system. All education is free for students. Every student is a voucher, and whether they go to a municipal run school or a school run by a non-municipal actor, so a foundation, a parental cooperative, and there are also for-profit companies running schools in compulsory education. schools get funding based on the number of students that walk through the door and sit in their chairs. The amount of the voucher is controlled generally at a municipal level. So within, say, the greater Stockholm region where we are, we have 15 to 20 municipalities, and it does differ, which means where you geographically place your school or where you draw in students from can affect your budget, and that different students in the same classroom could be providing different amounts to the budget. So that's a challenge. The salaries of teachers in Sweden have been going up for the last 5 or 6 years quite well. As a former teacher, that warms my heart. And the national government put in a number of measures to try and to push this, because the municipalities weren't pumping in much extra money, so it was sort of limiting it. The vouchers have been going up roughly at 1 to 1.5%, and teacher salaries, like the collective agreement, is 2.7. So and this is all supposed to work somehow. There's also, they've identified a need for some more socioeconomic funding. So based on the socioeconomic status of the students that a school attracts, you get funding based on that. Our schools have become very popular. At the moment, we're located in more central Stockholm, so as an organisation, we're going to receive less socioeconomic support funding than schools that are located in outside Stockholm or on the outer regions of Stockholm. So that's also, for us as an organisation. As a taxpayer, I think that's wonderful. As an organisation, that's a challenge. And then we have a teacher challenge. Sweden predicts that they're going to have a shortage of 70,000 teachers in about 10 to 15 years' time, when a lot of the large, in Australia we call them baby boomers, so the post-war boom of births, there's a lot of teachers in that, and a lot of them are reaching retirement age. The number of students is slowly increasing, so there's a lot of factors going on that it looks like it's going to be hard to attract teachers, find qualified teachers in the future. Less attractive school districts are already having trouble finding qualified teachers, and it will hit the big cities with a little bit of delay. Another challenge when moving to the digital environment that we're heading towards is they've just coined this expression in Sweden called adequate digital competence, which is they've avoided defining that too specifically so that it is an expression that can be used over time, because if you define it now, you know that in 5 years' time what was adequate now isn't adequate in 5 years. But that's a huge challenge, particularly when a lot of the studies of the teacher training programs say that the teacher training programs don't do enough to provide trainer teachers with digital competencies. Another challenge. And the final one we sort of think about is the future and what's going on and where are we heading. And sometimes you hear people say, oh, it's so hard to predict. We don't know what's going on and everything's changing and there's going to be 50,000 new types of jobs that we've never even thought of, or something like that. And then sometimes you think, well, really, is it like that? I mean, your phone, if you let it, will know everything you're doing and start telling you how your next journey is to your next meeting before you've even pulled it out of your pocket. We've got robots in healthcare. The latest article I saw was in Japan, where they're providing patients with social interaction. I mean, we've got Tesla's, halfway to the moon and is heading towards Mars, sort of thing. So we do know some about of where we might be heading in some of the future. But maybe even if we know where we might be heading, do we know how we need to train our students, what we need to give them now so that they're ready for that? We know that it's going to be different. We know that we need to prepare them for it. Are we doing the right things? Sometimes. So that was a bit of the what and the why we did it, but how did we get here? Our implementation. So we wanted this to not be an IT project. We wanted this to be about a shift towards blended learning. So to prompt, encourage our teachers to start thinking about what is it that you do in the classroom, how are you helping your students learn, how can we change this given that we already have a number of digital tools available and we're going to bring in Canvas that's going to hopefully be able to expand what you can do and support it in much better ways. What can we automate so that teachers can spend more time doing the things that you can't automate? How can we give them so they spend more time with the students? Giving them individual or small group support, so less time to 30 of them and more time to 3 of them. Reduce the double work they need to do so they don't need to write feedback in more than one place, things like that. We're hoping that learning becomes more and more visible in a digital world, so that what the student is learning becomes visible to the teachers, to their parents and to themselves. And also for our staff to make sharing the default. We're quite lucky in our organisation that many subject groups are very happy to share. They do. They sit down, they plan collaboratively, they share their resources. Not everybody's there, but many are. And in the digital world, sharing things becomes much easier. Every teacher teaching English Year 8 doesn't have to create the same things. If you collaborate and you've got 6 teachers, well, one can do the quiz for one topic and the other can do the quiz for the next topic, for example. So how do we make that the default and support that and encourage that? When it comes to actually Canvas implementation, so how do we get there? 5 years ago, a couple of teachers and a school leader looked at the options as far as LMSs go and came back with a report, and which was that Canvas looks like it would be the best option and the first one that we should start testing. That it was open and open for integrations was one of the strong selling points, that you could extract your courses afterwards. If we decide to change, can we get our information out in a form that you could put into the next system? Getting back to the Swedish SISs, that's going to be a challenge for me, nightmare, to get information out of old SISs that are sort of stuck in legacy. We had a few pilot teachers that used the Free for Teachers version of Canvas. Another, at that stage, attraction of Canvas was we can test it without having to pay for it, and we can have a few teachers test it. Didn't get as many of the features, but enough. That was positive. I think we got up to 5 or 6 teachers in the Free for Teachers version before we decided that we'd buy a school license and get it set up for a school. We had maybe 6 teachers in the first year, and that expanded to about 12 the second year. By last year, that school was all in, so all teachers were using Canvas. And now we've started to roll it out to other schools. Our most recent school that's 2 years in was digital from the start, so that was easier, and that's how we recruited our teachers. The other ones, in 2 of our schools, we've got pilot groups of about 10 to 12 teachers this year, and all teachers know that from August next year, Canvas is the place you're going to be. Gradual rollout. Time for support and training. As the further we go, the more we realise we need more of it. It's hard to find enough time, and I'll get to the challenge later. We've done support and training both as groups of varying sizes and also at an individual level. Harking back to Catherine beforehand, it has worked better where we can separate the technical support, how do I create an assignment in Canvas, from the pedagogical support, I want my students to be able to discuss a topic. So that separating those, when we've done it, it's been positive. Because the technical stuff can be more an IT support person. Pedagogical discussion, it's good if it's one of these people who's, an evangelist, who loves the digital stuff, who's been playing around with Canvas for 3 years, and also a teacher who likes those discussions. What have we learned? I'm going to cover 3 areas: deployment, staff buy-in, and staff training. The one thing we don't want to lose is the passion. We have a lot of passionate teachers, they care about learning, and we need to try very hard from a leadership organisational perspective to not kill that passion by talking too much about technical stuff. And that's a balance that we need to work on. It's been a challenge to balance the discussions of we want to talk about blended learning and the pedagogical side and not have those discussions end up being a discussion about the product of Canvas. I've seen IT projects in our organisation when I was a teacher that I could see there was a good idea behind them, but it very quickly became a discussion of the product. And the product is just the tool, and because the tool didn't meet expectations, then that project sort of died a horrible slow death, when the idea was great. So that's a challenge. I don't think we've solved it, but we try to remember to have different conversations. Part of it is we need to convince our teachers that this is a change that we need to happen, want to happen, and keep telling them why. And we're going to have new teachers coming in every year, so we can't say, we've told you all now, it's okay, we don't need to tick that one off. And not everybody listens, and I mean, I think you probably know some of the challenges. We need to do this because we want, as a foundation, we've been here 25 years, we want to keep doing and do more of what we've been doing for the next 25. And looking forward, we don't think there's any other way to go. Staff buy-in is all about communication. So much of these types of projects is about change management, and every time we sit down and assess where we are and how we've been going, we say we need to get better at communication. So we do need to do that. As I mentioned, it's hard to convince the staff that this is not just an IT project, it's about more than that. And sometimes conspiracy theories form. So when we showed them Commons, that you could upload your courses, some teachers got the impression that, oh, they're going to try and package our courses and sell them externally. We have absolutely no intention of doing that at all, ever. But things like this happen. So at least we have a dialogue, so we got that feedback back and we could meet it head on, which is better than it circulating with us never hearing it. But communication is very important. And then staff training. Everybody is a learner. We have some staff that we need to work on to help them be better learners. Some want to be and just find the IT environment challenging, and they've been trying, and they seem to sort of have some sort of mental block, and as soon as it's digital and they click too many times, and they get scared. We've got a couple in particular at one school, and they're not resistors, they want to do it, they need someone sitting next to them, and we just have to dedicate some resources to help them get to what we think is a minimum. We need to train our teachers to not wait for the workshop. I'm trying very hard to move away from too much of what would look like this in our schools. Our most recent training at the start of the year for Canvas was maybe 10 minutes of talking, particularly for our new recruits of these are the systems, and the rest of it was a self-paced Canvas course in Canvas about Canvas. And they had their earphones and they sat there and they could sit together in pairs or one by one. They could spread out. We could move around as trainers and help them when they got stuck and help them with things. And with a diverse group of teachers, I think that's a successful way to go, so that the ones that are running ahead don't get bored, and the ones that are struggling to keep up can look at the videos in the self-paced course over and over again if they need to do it again. And then if there's specific questions that start, you can take the questions individually rather than holding up the whole group while you answer one question in particular. Since last year also, we buy Tier 1 faculty support from Canvas. So all our faculty have the option to ring a Canvas hotline. There's an inbuilt chat. If they don't want to talk, they can chat. It's inside Canvas in the help button. And if they report a problem as faculty, it goes straight to Canvas support rather than our internal support, which is where student complaints would end up. We don't have the capacity to provide the amount of support that we would like to be able to give out, that we think our teachers deserve, and this is a way of outsourcing that support and giving it at hours that we'd never be able to man internally. The challenges a challenge for us being in Sweden is that we do have staff that don't feel comfortable doing that in English. The chat is probably more comfortable than the phone for those that aren't as comfortable in English. And for those, then we need to make, we need to help them on site in person, and they'll have to, book a time. But for large numbers, English is a very comfortable second language. So for them, we're trying to, but we need to train our staff that that's what you do. Don't wait for Richard to answer your email. Ring them. And if there's a bug in it, please don't email me. Tell it to Canvas straight away. Because then I end up being this, I need more information. Can you send me more information? Very inefficient. We've got a bit of a wish list. Some of this is based on things that we would like to see Canvas develop more, and some of it's probably already there. We haven't found it, or we need to work out routines for us, like how we want to use it. From an administrative school leadership, class mentor level, seeing one student across everything is really important. We need to find a way of being able to do that, to identify students that are at risk, but also to be able to have the discussion with them going, even for the students that everything's going really well, it's nice to be able to sit with them and go, looks great. If you're, I don't know what you call in England, but a classroom, a home teacher or a class teacher, the one that maybe has direct connection with the parents about the whole student. We need to look at using portfolios over the 3 to 6 years. So our students can't automatically go 6 years with us. There's a selection process at the end of year 9 to get into year 10 in Sweden. But some of our students do apply for our senior secondary colleges and get in based on grades. So we need to find best practice around that. And then getting our parents in. We haven't used the parent app yet, but we've got one school we've almost done all the administrative prep to get them in there. The parents have access to the SISs, so the administrative stuff, where they say if someone's not coming to school today because they're unwell, and there's been minimum requirements in the school of what feedback teachers put there so that the parents see something. They can see their schedule, what lessons they have today, and they get some regular feedback. We're hoping that by getting the parents into Canvas, that teachers don't have to put feedback in Canvas and in the SIS where the parents are. But then we need to sort of think, okay, what should the parents be able to see? What shouldn't they be able to see? But that's another example of us building the plane as we're flying it. We'll figure it out as we go. We're going to let them in and then see what breaks, sort of thing, hopefully. So hopefully I've given you some insight into our project to improve student experience by moving to a more blended learning environment. Thank you.